How does a Premier League club end up playing its home games nearly 70 miles away and still survive? That was the reality for Brighton and Hove Albion in the late 1990s, a club without a stadium, without stability, and dangerously close to disappearing from the Football League. And yet, today, they're not just established in the Premier League, they're rebuilding their stadium again. Because right now, Brighton are in the middle of a £40 million transformation of the Amex. Not a simple expansion, but a complete rethink of how the stadium works. From atmosphere and fan experience to the way match days actually feel inside the ground. From nearly losing everything to rebuilding something the Premier League has never quite seen before. This is the story of the Amex, and this transformation might just be the most important chapter yet. The Goldstone Ground had been Brighton's home since 1902, nearly a century of history, identity and emotion packed into one place. Then, in the mid-1990s, the club's board sold it to property developers to clear debts without consulting a single supporter and without securing any kind of replacement. Within weeks, bulldozers moved in and it was gone, replaced by a retail park that many Brighton fans still refuse to set foot in to this day. It wasn't just a stadium they lost, it was the heartbeat of the club. What followed was a fight for survival. Brighton and Hove Albion were forced to play home games nearly 70 miles away at Gillingham's Priestfield Stadium, a situation many fans simply couldn't sustain, pushing the club dangerously close to dropping out of the Football League. Even after returning to Brighton in 1999, they were stuck in the temporary, exposed Withdean Stadium, far from a real home. Meanwhile, plans for a new stadium at Falmer Stadium were locked in a long and bitter planning battle, facing years of opposition and one of the longest public inquiries in UK history. It took until 2007 for approval, and when the stadium finally opened in 2011, it wasn't just a new ground. It was the end of a 14-year struggle to bring the club back home. The stadium initially held just over 22,000 fans, but the demand outran it almost immediately. Expansion phases pushed capacity past 30,000, and when Brighton reached the Premier League in 2017, the pressure only deepened. Season tickets sold out almost overnight every single year. Waiting lists stretched longer each season, and a club that had once been playing in front of 5,000 fans on an athletics track was now competing in the European football. The gap between what the Amex could offer and what the club had become kept widening with every passing season. But simply building more was never the straightforward answer it might seem. The Amex sits hemmed in on all sides by the South Downs National Park surrounding university campuses, the A27 bypass, and strict environmental restrictions that made any large-scale structural changes near-on impossible. CEO Paul Barber acknowledged openly at a fans forum that the way the ground was built made significantly increasing seating extremely difficult. Beyond the structure itself, the transport situation was already under serious strain on every match day. No street parking anywhere nearby, pre-booked spaces selling out weeks in advance, and queues at Falmer Station after the final whistle regularly stretching to 50 minutes. Packing in more fans without fixing that equation wouldn't improve the matchday experience. It would make it noticeably worse. The club had tried to move on this before. Plans were drawn up and submitted to the council as far back as 2020. But the pandemic hit almost immediately. Revenues collapsed sharply and the whole project went back into the drawer. The issues, however, didn't go away. Demand kept building, the team kept progressing, and the pressure on the club to properly address what the Amex was and wasn't delivering kept mounting. So instead of chasing a dramatic capacity number the site couldn't realistically support, Brighton made a more considered and ultimately more ambitious decision. In December 2024, backed by Chairman Tony Bloom's continued and generous financial commitment, the club announced a £40 million multi-phase redevelopment, not to tear things apart and rebuild, but to completely reimagine what the Amex experience feels like from the moment a supporter walks through the gate to the moment there. The £40 million redevelopment isn't arriving all at once. It's 3 phases, rolling out year by year, each one fixing something the old Amex had been getting wrong for a long time. And a significant chunk of it isn't a promise anymore, it's already here. Phase 1 is complete and it arrived with a statement. The terrace opened in April 2025, Brighton's new external fan zone, and immediately the largest of its kind in the entire Premier League. Up to 1,000 fans under cover, expanding to 3,000 outdoors when the weather cooperates. The ground floor facade adjusts to manage crowd flow with a large digital screen wrapping the building, a mezzanine bar above, and a mix of food, drinks, and live entertainment. On non-match days, it screens away games and runs community events. The terrace isn't somewhere you pass through on the way into the ground, it's somewhere you actually want to be. Alongside that, safe standing returned to the North Stand for the first time since the Goldstone closed in 1997. Nearly 3 decades without it, and the atmosphere difference was felt almost immediately. Fan response was strong enough that an overwhelming majority voted to extend it further into the lower rows, with that work confirmed and scheduled for September 2026. Inside the stadium, the changes run deeper than the surface. The Superstore has been completely rebuilt across 2 full levels, its first overhaul in 14 years. Dick's Bar has been relocated, the Club Museum is leaving the stadium entirely, moving to Brighton City Centre for 2026 to 27 and freeing up space inside the ground. Digital turnstiles are in, a new safety control room sits in the northeast corner, and a new North Stand big screen is already up, the South Stand screen following in 2026. Phase 3 is underway right now. The new 1901 Club area is being built into the North Stand, opening for 2026 to 27. Pub vibe, standing space, replica shirts not just allowed but expected, and it will be the only hospitality area in the entire stadium where you can wear your kit. That one detail tells you exactly what kind of noise this space is meant to generate. Then comes the move that changes everything. In 2027, away supporters leave the South Stand and relocate to the southwest corner, handing the entire end behind the goal back to Brighton fans for the first time in the club's history at this ground. The club's own assessment was that the old arrangement was quietly hurting them, with away fans occupying what looked like 25% of the stadium right behind the goal Brighton attacked. That ends in 2027, and with safe standing expected in the reclaimed South Stand too, both ends of the Amex will finally carry real noise simultaneously. When it's all complete, the Amex sits at 32,500 seats, past Leicester's King Power and Wolves' Molineux, and over the 32,000 threshold needed to host senior England internationals. But the number was never really the point. What Brighton are building is a stadium that finally sounds and feels like the club it belongs to. Let's start with the money, because the funding behind all of this is genuinely remarkable. Tony Bloom personally financed the original Amex Stadium for around £93 million, building a top-level ground while Brighton was still in League One, something very few owners have ever done. Now add the £40 million redevelopment, and his total direct investment into stadium infrastructure pushes well beyond £130 million. In an era where many clubs rely on debt, Brighton have built and upgraded their home with minimal long-term financial risk, a model that sets them apart from far bigger clubs. What makes this project even more interesting is how carefully it has been executed. Rather than rushing a full rebuild, the club phased the redevelopment over several years, aligning construction with finances and fan feedback. Internally, Phase 1 was branded the Albionisation of the Amex, a signal that this wasn't just about building, but about reshaping identity. From early plans around 2020 to full completion in 2027, this is a 7-year transformation. That doesn't mean every decision has been smooth. The relocation of away supporters has been the most debated part of the project. For years, visiting fans sat behind the goal in the South Stand, creating a strong presence. Moving them into the southwest corner raised concerns about sightlines and atmosphere. The club insists the new section will meet modern standards with safe standing included, but the real answer will only come when it's in use. Then there's the number that quietly changes everything, 32,500. That pushes the Amex beyond the threshold required to host senior international matches, opening the door to a level of events and visibility the club has never had before. But ultimately, this entire project will be judged on one thing: atmosphere. Because for all the investment and planning, the goal is simple: turn the Amex into a true home advantage. If it works, Brighton gain a stadium that actively impacts results. If it doesn't, then even £40 million won't fully solve the problem. What Brighton are building isn't just an upgrade, it's an attempt to match their stadium to the level the club has already reached. And by 2027, we'll know if they've succeeded. So that's the full story of the Amex transformation, from a club with no home to a stadium built for the future. Do you think the new Amex will finally give Brighton the fortress atmosphere they deserve, or is there still something missing? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It genuinely helps more football fans find this content.